fast-track scheduling, procurement, or phase construction, the construction manager shall take into consideration the cost reductions, cost informations, and it's all lined out. That whole section is lined out. Why is that one lined out? I mean, that's what we've actually been doing.
Yeah. I apologize for the strikeouts in the contract. I asked the same question of our legal counsel, Perkins Coie, and the answer's pretty simple. It's not all that satisfying, unfortunately, though.
Give me a simple answer.
It's an AIA document, and there are copyrights with it.
Yeah.
And so they cannot delete anything from it. They can only strike it out. So parts that don't apply properly to our project are stricken, then additional parts are added in that apply specifically to our project.
Well, is this portion about assisting with an accelerated fast-track scheduling and procurement or phase construction, is that in the base contract?
It is.
This applies to the amendment.
Say that again now?
This applies to this amendment on this agenda. Okay.
So
So is that something that's already covered in a different, in the base contract?
under the pre-construction services, yes.
It is.
Yes.
So this is a redundancy.
And I assume, I'd have to look into both of them side by side to verify that it's a redundancy, but I assume that's why it's stricken. Because the pre-construction services were part of the base agreement.
Can I weigh in here?
Yes, please.
I think it's actually simpler than what it sounds. So you see how it says 2.14 and 2.14 is stricken out and repeated exactly in 2.141? Those two paragraphs are the same, right? Basically? I think that they struck it out and added a second paragraph there so that they could add in 2.142.
Oh, with recommend, okay.
2.141 is essentially the same as 2.14. I think they just struck it through to add
Okay.
2.142.
Then that must also apply to 2.1.7 because there appears to be a redundancy too.
It's just to change the numbering on the contract so you can add it
Okay.
in.
That answers my question. Thank you very much.
Councilman Campbell.
I have no questions, thank you.
Councilman Mons.
Thank you, Mayor. No questions. Looks good.
Councilman Salinas.
Thank you. The question I think I'd answered, when you compare the O&M costs, you give the actual specifics in here. There was wording that says it wasn't significant to offset the lower cost, but that wording threw me. It meant that the O&M cost plus the original initial price still remained the lowest priced product available. In both those cases for GE, Xenon, and ETS, correct?
Yeah, let me address both separately. So in the case of the MDR equipment, we had GE and Coke.
Right.
When we looked at strictly the 15-year O&M cost without any capital cost, it actually worked out that Coke was slightly less. But when we looked at the difference between the two in O&M costs versus the difference in capital cost and combine that, the overall package was less with GE.
Got
Make sense?
Yep.
The same thing essentially happened with the UV. And I don't recall, Trevor, do you remember who was the cheapest O&M on UV?
Trojan was slightly cheaper if you look at the O&M cost.
Yeah.
But it was, that's something that, there's stuff in those numbers that, how do you get guarantee of that, right?
Mike,
We're
please, the
asking
public
for
will never
guarantee.
hear you.
Sorry.
Here, just jump on the mic, please, or the public will never hear your answer.
Yeah, the difference between ETS and Trojan on the UV equipment, when you looked at capital costs and operational advantage costs, there was a slight advantage to Trojan. But understand what we asked for in the proposal to make this evaluation was operational costs over 15 years. So we don't have any way for them to guarantee for you that 15-year operational expense. So when it's a real narrow margin, it looked like the better option was to evaluate, since it was so close in the sum total, to look at the capital costs alone, and that's what brings us the savings.
Okay, thank you. And one last question for you, Trevor. Good to see you. Do you have experience with these products in your projects with Hoffman? I was just curious if you've used these products before.
The UV equipment we do not have experience with. We are happy to be able to recommend GE Xenon because we've got extensive experience with them from the Brightwater project. Very good experience. So I think it's going to be a good product for the city of Oak Harbor.
Super, thank you. I will use Mr. Coney's slide edit. Move to authorize the mayor to sign document A133, Exhibit A, GMP number 1, in the amount of $2,553,317 with Hoffman Construction for early procurement of UV and MBR equipment.
Second.
Motion from Councilor Sevelia, second from Councilor Alomar. Any further discussion? All those in favor of that motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? That passes unanimously. Thank you, Mr. Coney. And our last agenda item was an agenda item that was put on tonight's agenda by Councilmember Severns, and this was to take up a discussion in reference to the City of Oak Harbor's representation on Island Transit Board. And like every agenda item, we'll introduce it, we'll turn to the public for comment, and so I'll turn to Councilmember Severns to introduce the agenda item. Councilmember Severns.
Yeah, the motion was,
Well, there was no motion.
all right, excuse me, the agenda item was to discuss and take possible action regarding Oak Harbor's representative on the Island Transit Board of Directors.
Okay. Then at this time, we'll go ahead and turn to the public, and if anybody wishing to publicly comment in reference to the City of Oak Harbor's representation on Island Transit Board, as well as possible action and change to that representation, can do so now. We'll have you at the podium, have you state your name, and you have 3 minutes.
Well, thank you for letting me speak. I was bothered enough as a witness to what went on at the last Island Transit Board of Directors meeting to come here and speak to you because I think we need some outside perspective. I witnessed a member of this body attempting to hijack Oak Harbor's seat on the Island Transit Board of Directors. I saw a display of childish political grandstanding by Councilman Servatius, and I think he embarrassed himself, this council, and the city of Oak Harbor. He claimed that he had this council's express permission to displace your mayor from his rightful seat. He claimed that he had cleared it with the mayor's office. As proof, he challenged the Island Transit Board of Directors to review the videotape. Well, I did. The result is that there is no truth in any of his statements. This council did not express approval of his scheme to unseat your mayor. There was no motion and there was no vote. Councilman Servatius was in receipt of a letter from your mayor, specifically informing him that he was welcome to attend the board meeting as a private citizen, but not as a board member. In all, I counted 4 occasions where Councilman Servatius lied straight-faced to this council and to the Island Transit Board of Directors. I personally have a problem with that. This does not meet my standards of performance for a public official, nor should it meet yours. This is an indicator of character and a matter of trust. In my view, this council should not trust Councilman Servatius to represent this body on the Island Transit Board of Directors as an alternate. He should be removed. In fact, you should consider removing him from any other appointed position of trust. Mayor Dudley has done a stand-up job trying to get at the truth at Island Transit. He's brought a ray of clarity to a muddy process. He insists that financial plans and budgets add up and make sense. He believes that a thorough house cleaning is in order and agrees with Councilman Campbell. And he has a backbone to state it publicly. My suggestion is that this council vote to extend Mayor Dudley's term as your representative to Island Transit's Board of Directors for at least another year and select a new trustworthy alternate. Island Transit is serious business. It needs to be fixed by serious people. It does not deserve to be relegated to petty politics or personalities. Thank you.
Mr. Lauderdale, anyone else wishing to comment? And get up to the podium, state your name.
I'm Bill Strobridge, live in Oak Harbor. Got involved in this thing in response to a citizen that wanted a Freedom of Information deposit. And I deposited with the transit, got the information, volunteered to summarize it and present it. And he said, oh, and incidentally, give it to Dave Hayes. And I suddenly realized what was going on. I was hooked. I became deeper and deeper involved in this. But I'm reminded of something I learned. I was a professional hire 50 years ago with IBM. I realized IBM did not sell computers. IBM sold the benefits of computer-aided design, of better financials, of quicker responses to marketplaces. Incidentally, it took the computer to do the job. And that lesson that you sell benefits has been with me all my life. I never make a decision without being able to justify it with the benefits of that decision. I spent 10 years in acquisitions, mergers, disposals, bankruptcies, and what have you. Never once did I ever make a recommendation. I was part of a 4-man team without starting out by the benefits to support my recommendation. And in that period of time, I didn't have time to be a nice guy. Kind of like Dudley, who was the motivator on this thing. You have to go in, you have to make quick decisions, and if you don't act now, you're wasting the resource and you're losing the talent. I challenge you to identify the benefits that will be realized by changing horses in the middle of the stream. It's sheer insanity, and we would lose the rapport that he has established, the employees at Transit that have bombarded us with information, ex-employees that have done so, and hundreds of hours of research that would be lost without the benefits of keeping Dudley on the job until he finishes this thing. I challenge you one more time. You show me and the public the benefits of that guy's replacing him. No way.
Thank you, Mr. Strobridge. Anyone else?
Hi, my name is Gail Zoffo-Crook, a Carver resident, and it was very distressing to me to see the actions that were taken at that board meeting by Mr. Spadis. So much so that I'm doing some research on Island Transit. I'm very deep into it. I have a federal contact that I've been working with, and I felt the need to go ahead and send a copy of that videotape to him and the Executive Ethics Committee, because it was completely unethical, completely. And to even consider putting somebody on an Island Transit board for one meeting and raises his hand and votes yea on the hiring of Island Transit's interim director, who has a maybe not so credible past. And when you take a atmosphere like Island Transit, which is it's an abusive, it's a hostile work environment in that building. And so to get rid of one hostile leader, those people, those employees might have been able to take a breath for a couple minutes, but as soon as we said yay, let's hire him as an interim director, you just put somebody with the possibility of being an abusive leader right back in there with it. Maybe there's a possibility if he had voted nay, if he wasn't familiar with the situation, it might be a little bit easier. But it didn't go down like that. And I spent the afternoon with Barbara Bailey, son Barbara Bailey, at our coffee talks, and she asked me to have some paperwork and document to get to her. I reached in my bag and pulled out a big stack of paperwork. There you go, man. And I told her I was coming tonight. You know, that I had to come in and sit in on an OCARPA meeting because of the fact it was 5 steps backwards, let's put it that way. And I got involved with this because I'm a 20-year Navy veteran, I'm 100% disabled, and when my Route 411 got realigned going out to Mount Vernon a year before the funds were up, that upset me. That upset me. So there is it's huge at Island Transit. It's huge. It is huge. Every level of federal government and the state is going to be affected by this. Every single one of them. So, I beg you, Mayor Dudley, keep him in there. He has done awesome, incredible work in there. He has questioned finances.
Thank